Hey, what's up, guys? Chad Hermansen here with Mental Edge Training Coach. If you're enjoying these episodes, of course, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit that bell button so you don't miss out on any new episodes. Today, I am going to be talking to what we would consider an internet sensation pretty much overnight, former Major League infielder Jeff Frye, otherwise known as She Gone Hitting. Today, we're going to be talking about with Jeff what's going on with She Gone Hitting, how he's basically in a way making fun of all the new hitting techniques that are going on these days. So we're going to dive into that. Why is he doing this? What's the point of it? Getting a lot of laughs out of this for sure. But enjoy this episode with Jeff Frye. And of course, make sure you go to the mentaledge.training where I put together a free 4-video mental edge course for you to introduce you to my teachings and how I go about instilling the mental game into yourself or your young athlete. So enjoy this episode with She Gone Jeff Frye. Hey, what's up, guys? Chad Hermansen here. Jeff Frye is going to be my guest today. Played in the big leagues for over 8 years, mainly with the Rangers and the Red Sox is when I remember you going throughout the Major League experience. But Jeff, how's it going, man? Thanks for coming on today.
Good, Chad. How are you, man? I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. So what I was going to tell you is we're going to talk, I'm going to let you share your story about what you did in the big leagues, but I think we got to dive right into you become an internet sensation over the last few weeks, few months, and talking about hitting in regards to how what you were taught and what a lot of us were taught in the big leagues, in pro ball, and what we're seeing online now with a lot of these, quote, these hitting gurus. So tell me about your story. Why did you start doing She Gone Hitting?
Man, it was just kind of crazy. It just kind of started as a joke. I was in the backyard and goofing around with my son, and I'd seen a video. There's 2 or 3 scouts that I talked to on a daily basis. We're kind of on a little group text, and we all played, and we all good friends, and we sent each other these silly videos that we see. At least we think they're silly videos of what people are, teaching kids nowadays. And so I imitated one on the video, had my son film me, and I put it on Twitter, just goofing around. And my buddy says, "Man, dude, you got 400 views." I was like, "Cool, that's cool." In like an hour, and then he's like, "Dude, you got 4,000 views." I was like, "Are you kidding me?" I had no idea. I mean, really don't do much on social media, at least till like 3 months ago.
Right.
And then the backlash I got from a lot of the guys, I guess, teaching this type of stuff, I mean, it was pretty ruthless. They're attacking my sons and calling me names, and they don't know me well enough, but all that did was spur me on to, I had to make at least one more video. And then the next video got 80,000 views or something like that. And then people start, and when I said the She Gone the first time, it was not scripted. None of the videos I make are scripted. I stand there. I was leaning in my phone up against a chair, videoing myself in the backyard. And I don't know where She Gone came from. I was a big fan of Hawk Harrelson, the White Sox.
Yep.
And loved some of his calls and funny things he said. He used to say, "He gone," or something like that. And so it just came out, She Gone, and everybody seemed to like it. And now it's like, it's taken on a life of its own.
Yeah, it's been funny. I mean, if you sit there and follow, now you have your own channel. Is it your own page now on Facebook? Where can people follow all these videos?
Well, hopefully by tomorrow we'll be have our She Gone Hitting website set up. Believe it or not. And
So we're going big here.
We're going big, baby. Go big or go home. And then, I originally I didn't have much of a presence on social media, and I went and saw Steve Springer. You know who Steve Springer is?
Sure.
Yeah. So Steve goes around and talks to high schools and colleges, and I've heard him twice, and I actually participated in one of his, one of the times he went and talked to a local high school, and I was like, man, I'd like to do that. I'd like to go around and talk, and I always kind of get nervous before I give a speech, but once I give it, most people say I do a good job. So I was like, I kind of like to do that. So I said, I have to develop more of a presence on social media to get people to know who I am. And I haven't played for 20 years. So I have to kind of reinvent who I am. And that was the start of getting on Twitter and all that stuff. And I mean, it's just been insane now. Now it's like Facebook, I have 4,000 followers in the last month, and Twitter, I maxed out
You're
at
you're
Facebook.
almost maxed out
Twitter,
on Facebook, right?
I am maxed out, then I do a little bit of stuff on Instagram. The videos have to be, I think, a minute or shorter, and some of my videos go over that, so I can't put them on there. But I think the biggest breakthrough in this was when somebody put one of my videos on TikTok.
Mhm.
Nick Duarte, who writes for Forbes magazine.
Okay.
Okay, he put my video on TikTok, goofing around, and started reading the responses, and was like, "I got to get a hold of this guy. I got to see who this guy is that everybody's talking about." And he said he got 2 million views, 1 million views in 2 days, 2,500 new followers the first day, and he reached out to me. And next day we talked. He did an interview. He put it in Forbes magazine, and now I got local TV stations, radio stations, TV stations. Everybody's coming over.
That's awesome. That's so
I mean,
cool.
it's crazy.
And so I want to dive into, like you were saying, this was getting kind of serious on Twitter. Like you were getting threats, right? And now were these threats coming from essentially maybe the instructors you were disagreeing with, or was it actually people that are backing up maybe their philosophy?
Shh, hold on, my dog's barking. I don't know exactly where the threat came from. I have a pretty good idea where the threat came from, but it was basically people that I was using their videos as examples in my videos. So I see one of their videos hitting with a fishing net. And hold on a second. My dogs, I'm sorry.
You're good.
And so I made fun of that video. And next thing I know, I get text messages, a phone call from a unknown number, leaving a threatening message. And it's like, man, these guys are taking this stuff too serious. I mean, you can tell in my videos I'm joking around, can you
Right.
not? And they can't take a joke. And then when they start, it's not just me. I mean, there's a lot of former players that have participated in these conversations with these guys, and it's all they're doing is trying to belittle guys that played in the big leagues like we were all terrible, and none of them ever even played professional baseball. I mean, it's absurd.
Right. So you feel like they were like these, and we don't need to name any names. We don't need to do anything like that. But you feel like they're, in a way, they're crossing a line where they're saying, look, like, even though I didn't play, your way might be wrong and my way is the right way. And I'm going to teach kids now. Is that kind of how?
Yeah, that's what they're teaching, that what we did is wrong. The game, we both know that the game has changed. It's more of a, all or nothing type of game now, and guys are just trying to lift the ball and hit home runs, and either walk, strike out, or hit a home run. It seems like it's kind of the way, the trend of the game, which is a lot different. Especially, I know I'm older than you, but especially when I came up, I was told not to hit the ball in the air. I would get yelled at for hitting the ball in the air. So I tried to hit a line drive or ground ball every time.
Yeah.
And, I don't think it's fair that I'm criticized for being a line drive hitter when that's what they coached me to be, and I did it to the best of my ability. And now they say that I couldn't even play in the big leagues in 2020.
Right.
And so I think it's just the attacks on guys that played and know how hard this game is. You know how hard this game is. You can't just sit there and hit off a tee in your basement and say you figured the secret out to hitting.
Yeah, no doubt. And what I'd like to get into with you is exactly, because if young kids are listening to this, they're looking at something online, and there might be a cue where you talk a lot about you got to get that front elbow up, right? Get the backside to collapse. Completely the opposite of what we were all taught. And so what is the opposite for you? What were some cues that you were taught, whether it was swing down through the ball, like what worked for you?
Well, I think we over-exaggerate. I hear a lot of stuff about chopping down the ball. I used to use that when I was coaching my kids in Little League. It's like you're chopping down like you're chopping a tree, just to get that motion of them swinging down through the ball, when actually you're not trying to cut the ball in half.
Right.
You're just trying to create, at least in your mind, the idea that your hands are high and you're swinging down through the ball, and keep your bat in that zone as long as you can, and then finish high. And in the videos, doing the complete opposite, obviously, except, a few of them I said, well, this is actually how I did it. Let's see if this works, as
Right.
opposed to dropping, collapsing, lift and separate and just swinging for the fences. I mean, I can understand how a guy who's, 6'7", 270 pounds wants to hit the ball in the air every time, but it wouldn't work for me at 5'9", 160. I'd had a lot of flyouts and I'd have been a 4A player.
Right. Yeah, that's what's kind of interesting about it, and why I think we need to start having more conversations about it, because kids are watching. And video is so accessible to these young kids. I have a kid that's 17, and I work with a lot of kids. I'm a scout now, and we talk about it. And I think it's a conversation. And most of the old school guys that I spoke with, I just spoke with Aaron Rowan the other day. He's really upset with one of the online coaches. It's kind of been going off on him. But it's interesting that when you start diving into bashing or tearing down a big leaguer that played in the big leagues for a long time and saying you're completely wrong with what you did and you had as much success as you did, we're now at a whole new level.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, the saying, you can't big league a big leaguer, right? And I used this example the other day. Like when I was in the minor leagues and I was around big leaguers, like my first big league camp, I was afraid to talk to those guys.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not even like allowed to talk to those guys. Those guys are up here. They're at the level that I hope that I can get to someday. But until then, I mean, I'm just supposed to just keep my mouth shut and sit on the bench and do my job. And hopefully one day I'll turn into one of those guys. But to see guys, that didn't get out of D2 college telling big leaguers who played 10, 12 years in the big leagues that they're no good. And that's just kind of crazy.
Yeah. So I remember you mostly from playing with the Rangers and the Red Sox. And then I think later you were with the Blue Jays and the Rockies. But on those teams, so let's talk about the Rangers. You played with, I'm assuming, Rafael Palmeiro, Juan Gonzalez, and Ivan Rodriguez, right? I'm sure you discussed hitting with those guys. What did those guys do?
Oh, I mean, we were all different. And I mean, those are just a few of the guys I played with the Rangers. I mean, Julio Franco, Palmeiro, Juan Gonzalez, Ruben Sierra, Pudge Rodriguez, Dean Palmer.
That's a squad right there.
I mean, we were one of the best hitting teams in baseball, and everybody did it different. Juan Gonzalez was the best RBI guy I ever played with. If there was a guy on base, you knew Juan Gonzalez was going to drive him in. And Ruben Sierra had a huge leg kick, and Pudge had a leg kick, and Palmeiro just had a little toe tap, and Will Clark, we all remember Will Clark's famous cape swing, and Dean Palmer was the natural man. He had the quickest hands I'd ever seen. And I mean, everybody, Julio with his crazy batting stance. So everybody did different, but everybody was in a good hitting position when the ball was in a strike zone. And one of the things that I tell people all the time, and I don't think they really understand this when they ask me my theory on hitting, was like, I looked for a fastball and I tried not to miss it. You see so many guys who foul off their pitch.
Yeah.
I mean, I was such a good contact hitter that usually it kind of worked against me at times, because sometimes I would swing at a bad pitch and put it in play when I should have not. I should have swung and missed, but I was so used to trying to make contact that I would, maybe a slider low and away and I'd roll over it, where I'd been better off just swinging and missing and still hadn't had a chance, But I mean, generally, if I swung, I hit it most times.
Yeah. So when you started, I think one of your best, kind of my favorite part of your whole video system is your paper certified hitting guru.
Yeah.
And I love how in some of your videos it falls down, right? It's so awesome. So how many videos have you done? And then how many do you plan on making more? Like just whatever comes to mind with your creativity?
Yeah, and the certified hitting guru box is actually a litter box. We found a feral cat about a year ago. Now he's a member of our family, but my girlfriend also uses it as a mop bucket. So it's multi-purpose. I think I've probably made 12 or 13 videos so far, and I plan on making more. And it's not like I release one every Wednesday or a certain date. It's just kind of like I'll be sitting at home and go, I'm going to make a video. Everybody inside, because I don't want them out there when I'm making it, because I don't need the pressure of them
Yeah,
watching me mess
a
up a
lot
few
of pressure.
times before I edit it and, you know, and make it. But there's no script. There's never been a script. I just kind of stand there. You know, sometimes I'll have a Rangers jersey or Blue Jays or
Yeah,
Rockies or whatever.
yeah.
I really want to do one in Spanish because I have a jersey from my team in Venezuela, my winter ball team. So I'm going to get with Benji Gill, who's a good friend of mine, and translate for me so I can maybe do one in Spanish at some point.
That's awesome. I think anytime we can make fun of the game in a way, like Domingo Ayala, right? If you follow his stuff, he's just hilarious. Makes you
Oh, I
laugh.
love him.
Yeah.
He asked me to be his agent.
Did he? Oh, great.
Yeah, about 5 years ago. About 5 years ago, I saw him at the winter meetings, and he had his white and red and his long sleeve T-shirt, and he was walking around in his uniform at the winter meetings. And at the time, I thought, you know, when my kids were in Little League, I was like, every time, you know, pop the chain, all this stuff. And Domingo, he's so popular, but then it seemed like there was a lull where he wasn't as popular. I thought maybe it was going away. So I was like, yeah, I don't know, man. I got to focus on the players I represent and not
Right.
go into an avenue I know nothing about. So
Sure. So let's talk about that. So you're now an agent. Tell us, how did you get into becoming an agent?
Well, when I retired, I really wanted to stay in the game. I had opportunities in scouting. Thad Levine, when I was with the Rockies, Thad Levine was assistant GM. Now he's GM of the Twins. He called me up after the season, after my last year, and says, "Hey, you have any interest in scouting?" And I was like, "I don't know, maybe." And what do you got in mind? And I said, "How many days a week would I have to be at a field?" He said, "Probably 6." I was like, "No chance. I can't do it." And then Sandy Johnson, who was with the Mets, used to be the Ranger assistant GM, said if I ever wanted to get back on the field and coaching, give him a call. Man, you know, riding those buses in the minor leagues, man, it's just, when you played as long as I did, 15 years, I don't know that I could go back and do that and be 100% into it, you know? So had an opportunity to become an agent, and I did it. And the reason I did it was because I kind of felt at the end of my career, my agent bailed on me. And he was my agent. I had a couple agents. When I first signed, I had an agent that really didn't do anything. And when I got to the big leagues, I hired a big company, Speakers of Sport. And at the very end of my career, they were purchased by SFX. And then they had a breakup. So I ended up having to stay with SFX because Speakers had a non-compete. Well, the guy who was my guy, I'm not going to mention his name. I had 9 years and 15 days in the big leagues, and I'm sitting at home when spring training starts. And I gave him a call, and I was like, "What's up, man? I mean, you have anything for me?" He's like, "Nah, I'm pretty busy with arbitration cases. Why don't you make some phone calls, call independent league teams and this and that?" I'm like, "What?" Now all of a sudden, why do I need you if I got to make the phone calls, you know? So I fired him and hired another guy. And but I always remembered that if I became an agent, I wouldn't do that to my guys. You know, I mean, you can't just be there when everything's great and they're on top of the world and they're paying you a bunch of money and they go down the tubes and you can't bail on them. And so that's why I became an agent.
I could tell you the exact same story. You know, once you become a prospect, then maybe you get a little time in the big leagues, then you're now a suspect. You know, It's easy to move on to the grass is greener with the other players, more money, things like that. So that's awesome. So you've been doing that now for 18 years?
Yeah, I started in 2003, and didn't have a clue what I was doing, and just know, the relationship I had with my agent. And it's kind of funny. I just played with the Rockies the year before, and Darren Oliver was my old teammate, and I played against him and good friends. And he was represented by Boris, and he was kind of in that stage I just talked about. He had 9 years in the big leagues, and it's kind of on the downside, it looked like. And he actually went to winter ball with 9 years in the big leagues, which most guys won't do, and he said, "Man, I need you to get me a job." And I was like, "I can't, Darren." I said, "You're represented by Scott Boras." He goes, "Well, stay on the line. I want you to hear me fire him." And I said, "No." I said, "Call me back if you fire him, whatever." He calls me back 5 minutes later, says, "All right, left him voicemail. See what you can do." Within 48 hours, we had him a job with the Rockies.
Wow.
Because I knew some people there from when I played there. And their exact thing they said was, Boris had called earlier in the off season when we didn't have interest in Darren, but some things fell through, and he never called us back. And we'd love to give Darren an opportunity. And he played 9 more years after that.
That's amazing.
Yep.
Yeah, I think everybody's come across Darren Oliver at some point. So that's.
Oh man, the dude had like 5 years in a row with an ERA in the twos.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and he reinvented himself. He came up as a power pitcher with a nasty curveball, and then he lost some velocity. Went to Colorado. Bob Apodaca taught him a cutter, and I mean, he just started carving dudes up and throwing strikes. And I mean, he probably made $20 million after he hired us.
That's great. That's really cool.
So it's cool.
Well, that's good. So tell us about like your story, like how you got drafted, how you got to the big leagues, maybe the grind you had to go through, and was there some mental aspects of that, maybe the ups and downs that you had to go through there?
It's a long story, man. You sure
we got
you
time.
want to hear it?
We got time.
All right. Well, I'll go to when I got drafted. I was, went to junior college for 2 years, and I went to Southeastern Oklahoma State in Oklahoma, NAI school for 2 years, and set the school record in hitting my senior year, and first team All-American, and thought I was done. I mean, I was a small guy and wasn't particularly fast, and no scouts were ever at our games. And so one of my teammates who was getting scouted by the Reds mainly got an invitation to a Rangers tryout camp, and he said he didn't want to go. And I said, well, let me have your invitation. So I took his invitation, and our coach called Doug Gassaway, the scout for the Rangers, and said, Benny Culver's not coming, but Jeff Frye's going to come in his place. And he said he's not going to stand out at a tryout camp. He's not that type of player. So sure enough, I went to tryout camp. I'm sure you've been to tryout camps before, or at least know how they run them. You know, you get there, you run the 60, and you take your ground balls, whatever, then you hit. So I did all that, and now it's time to hit. And basically just, live BP off a pitcher. You're not hitting off batting practice. This guy is trying to make the team too, so this guy's airing it out. And I faced a guy that I'd faced in junior college, and I was just hitting a bunch of line drives with an aluminum bat. Get out of the cage. They say, next time you get in there, we want you to use a wooden bat. And I'm like, I didn't tell them that I never really had practiced with a wooden bat. This is 1988. I really hadn't. And so now they're like, you know how to hold it? And I'm like, no, not really. And they're like showing me how to hold the label. And now they're even messing around with my stance. Kind of had my hands in here. They said, we want you to get your hands out here. And these guys that have never seen me play are now, after one round of hitting bullets everywhere, changing my stance. So now I get back in there against another guy, and I was uncomfortable. First pitch I took because I was uncomfortable. Next pitch I hit in the parking lot, and just crushed this guy. And then and I was just like, what is going on here? I mean, I hit 9 home runs that year in college, but I'm not a home run hitter. Now they say, all right, we're going to let you face one more guy. This guy just got released by the Reds, this 6'9" right-hander, those low 90s, and I get in there and I take him deep too. And now there's probably 50 or 60 guys this tryout camp, and the guys who are also trying out are coming up to me and like patting me on the back and saying, I mean, it was obvious that I was just having the incredible day, and the day of my life, at the right time. Yeah. And so now they say, hey, we want to invite you to Hermansen Stadium in 2 weeks for our next tryout. I'm like, cool. So I go back to school. It's a weekend, go out on Lake Texoma, skiing behind Dennis Rodman's boat. Rodman wasn't actually there, but the family that took him in, I'm sure you've seen the 30 for 30, took him in. We were friends with them, and so they had his boat. We went out on the lake skiing. The rope snaps out of my hand hits the ski, busts my fingers open. I have to go to the emergency room and get stitches through my fingernail and the tip of my finger, and they glued my middle finger, my left hand. And I told the doctor, I was like, man, I got a tryout in a week.
Yeah.
He's like, you're not going to be able to go to that. And I was like, okay. So he leaves the room. I go through I'm not proud of this, but I go through his drawers. I steal some gauze pads and some rubber gloves, put them in my pocket. I said, well, thanks a lot. And I left. Went back to school. I think it was about a week till the tryout. I couldn't practice. Show up in Hermansen Stadium, did the running, the ground balls. The ground balls were killing me. Every ground ball. I mean, I had stitches through my fingernail on the tip of my finger, and I had it wrapped up with gauze, a rubber glove, and a batting glove over that. So I ran the 60 with a batting glove on. Okay. Apparently they didn't notice, but when I was taking ground balls, every ground ball I caught was killing my finger. And I'm like, how am I going to hit? You know?
Right.
So now I go get in the cage. First swing, the bat flies out of my hand. It's top of the cage. I pick it up like it's nothing. I get in there, hit a couple more swings. They could tell I'm not swinging like I was. And they call me out and they're like, what happened? I was like, man, I hurt my hand, water skiing. They're like, let's see it. So I take out my batting glove, the rubber glove, the gauze pads, and they see that I have the stitches through my fingernail. And they say, well, obviously you want to play pretty bad. They said, go home, get your hand ready. We're going to draft you. And then they drafted me in the 30th round, and I signed for $2,000. So
big money.
Big money.
Getting out there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Got
That's
my girlfriend
awesome.
some tires, and I think there was no money left after that.
Yeah. How am I going to get to my spring training site, right?
Yeah, thank goodness I had to fly to beat Montana.
That's really cool. Okay, so now you've been drafted. How old were you when you got drafted?
I was 21.
21. And then for our listeners, you mentioned you're not a very big guy. What's your size?
5'9". I really played 5'9", 160.
Okay, so 5'9", 160. You're hitting tanks. You're hitting line drives all over the place. Probably, when you get into pro ball, did you notice right away, like, man, these guys are pretty big? Was there any like, maybe I don't belong here? Was there any of those thoughts?
Yeah, a lot of those thoughts. I mean, I thought I was one of the worst players on our team the first year. I mean, all these dudes are hitting 350, and I had to learn how to hit with a wooden bat. I bet I broke 30 bats my first year in short season.
Did they not have bomb bats then?
No, we had pro stock. We'd get a bat order and it'd be like a Tony Gwynn 32-inch model, and then like a P89 34, and you had to just whatever you could scavenge, and that's what you used. And no your own bat orders, none of that kind of garbage. And I ended up going that year at one stretch 0 for 37.
Wow.
And I was like, man, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be here.
Right.
And then I ended up, kind of figuring it out a little bit, and ended up hitting 286 my first year in short season in the Pioneer League, which honestly is not that good. I mean, we had guys hitting 390, and so next year go to spring training. Our other second baseman that was on our team in Butte, he was a higher draft pick, left-handed hitter, really good hitter, not as good defensively and not as fast as me, but he could hit.
Okay.
And so going into low A ball in Gastonia, he's the starting second baseman. And I'm the utility guy that only plays second. Honestly, I played a little short in college, but I mean, I didn't have the arm strength to play
Not a
short.
true utility guy?
No. And I was like, what kind of utility guy only plays second base?
I play short?
Yeah. So first game of the season, our starting second baseman breaks his finger on a throw down to second base, stolen base attempt. I step in and lead the league in hitting.
Nice.
Won the batting title. Next year, then I get to go to instruction league for the first time.
Okay.
The first year I didn't get to, because I wasn't a prospect.
Yeah.
And the next year I was like, man, I want to go to instruction league. Can I please go to instruction league? So I go to instruction league, do well there, hit okay in the Florida State League. When I was in the Florida State League, it was not a hitter's league, man. The ball didn't carry. The air was just so thick, and I don't know if I even hit a home run. I might have hit one home run in the Florida State League, but hit like 270. Next year, go to Double-A after. This is really the turning point for me. In Double-A, I was hitting about 230 after 2 months of the season, and we're in Wichita, Kansas, and my roommate was Rick Rona. Rick Rona played 3 or 4 years in the big leagues as a catcher, and older guy on our team. And we're just goofing around at the hotel after a game one night, and I'm imitating Ruben Sierra and Juan Gonzalez and all these Rangers with a big leg kick,
Yeah.
And it's not how I hit in the game. And I'm just killing the ball. We're playing like wiffle ball. And he goes, why don't you hit like that in a game? I was like, why not? Next day, I went to the field, and it was a rainy day, so we didn't have time for BP. They had a tarp on the field. So I really didn't get any practice. And I went from kind of a spread out stance with my hands out in front, straight up stance like Steve Garvey, hands here, and raise my leg a foot in the air and put it right back down.
Okay.
First game I went 1 for 4, but hit a home run foul.
Good
I
signs.
was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
You know? And I went from that point in the season, it was at least 2 months, if not further into the season, to leading our team in, I think, 10 offensive categories. Hit 300, bunch of doubles, triples, stolen bases. Didn't make the All-Star team initially, but somebody got hurt. So I was a replacement in the All-Star game. MVP of the All-Star game, 4 for 5. Went to winter ball, voted most popular player in Venezuela, hit 300. Rangers put me on the 40-man. Next year, so I go to big league camp. Should have made the team. I had a great spring. Next year, I played the first 89 games in Oklahoma City, hit 300. I had over 100 hits and got called up to the big leagues.
That's awesome.
So, with a leg kick.
So that the leg kick helped you get in a better position to hit, would you say?
Gave me more leverage.
Okay.
You know, I always could hit. I could always make contact. Even in Double-A, when I was hitting 230, I was making contact. But a lot of the balls that I was hitting in A ball that were hits were not hits in Double-A. You know, the defense is better. The outfielders are running stuff down. I can't drive it through the gap. You know, and once I got that leg kick and started hitting against the firm front side, I could really drive the ball a lot harder.
That's all. It's so cool how just one little adjustment can make the world of a difference there. So
it did.
Yeah. So now you're in the big leagues. Did you have, with your career, once you got to the big leagues, were you there for the next 8-9 years, or did you have up and down where AAA, big leagues, kind of back and forth?
Well, I never got sent down. I never got sent down. My first year, I got called up and spent the rest of the year there. Next spring training, next off season, I tore my ACL. So I missed the whole season.
Yeah.
94, and then I went to winter ball again and won the batting title. And then I went to spring training in 94. You know, I still had options and all that stuff. And because the guys who had replaced me the year before were still there, I started this season in the minor leagues. You know, I didn't get sent down from the big leagues. I just didn't make the team out of spring training. Then 94, they called me up. I hit 327 in the big leagues. Next year I hit 270. And then the Rangers didn't offer me arbitration. So I became a free agent. Went with the Tigers to spring training. Had a deal where they had to put me on the roster by a certain date. They weren't ready to do it, so I left, went back to Oklahoma City with the Rangers for a couple months. And the Red Sox were having trouble at second base. And Will Cordero and Jeff Manto were playing second. And a good buddy of mine who's an agent, Billy Martin Jr., happened to represent Kevin Kennedy, who was the manager of the Red Sox.
Yeah.
And Kevin was my manager with the Rangers for a while.
Yep.
And so he knew me well. And Billy goes, the guy you need's in AAA, Oklahoma City. He goes, who? He goes, Frye. So I had just, I think the day before, pulled a quad muscle, scoring from second on a sac fly to center field. And so I was setting out for a couple days, and my agent calls me and says, hey, are you all right? You haven't played for a couple days. And I was like, yeah, I'm fine, lying through my teeth. And he goes, well, the Red Sox want to bring you to the big leagues. I said, really? And of course I'm excited, you know. And the Rangers had the right of first refusal, so they could have called me back, but Johnny Oates didn't like me. He wasn't a fan of me. He was a Macklemore guy. And so Mac was doing well, so they didn't call me up. I went right to Boston, walk in Kevin's office. He goes, why haven't you played? And I said, you want me to BS you or tell you the truth? And he goes, tell me the truth. I said, I messed up my quad 3 days ago. And he goes, how bad? I said, pretty bad, dude. I said, pretty bad.
Yeah.
He goes, what percent are you? And I said, probably 60%. I said, but I'll tape it up as tight as I can and give you everything I have. And he goes, well, 60% of you is better than what we have. and that was like, I think that was June, in the middle of June, maybe the second week of June. And from that point on the season, I almost got 500 plate appearances in the big leagues.
Wow.
And then the next year, 97, I had a great year. The following year, they signed me to a 3-year contract. Spring training, I tore my other ACL. So the 2 times I got hurt, the first time, I mean, major injuries. The first time I was the Rangers Rookie of the Year, looking, next year was looking good for me, out. And then in 97, I just hit 312, had a great year for the Red Sox. Going to be the starting second baseman, leadoff hitter for the Red Sox, and tear my other ACL out for the year.
Now, did you do both of them while in the game, like while playing?
No, neither one was actually in a game. The first one was playing basketball. Playing basketball in the off season with Kenny Rogers and Rick Helling and Darren Oliver, and I used to go play basketball 4 or 5 days a week at the local gym. And some dude took me out one time and my knee popped.
Yeah.
I lied about that to the Rangers. I told them that I stepped off a curb. And then the second time it was the rundown drills in spring training.
Okay.
I went to cut the guy first and third rundowns where the second baseman runs across the field and the runner's caught in between home and third, and I go to cut him back to third, and Darren Bragg spins completely around, and I went to cut, and my knee just went. It's so bad. Darren Bragg screamed when he heard it. It was so bad. But I mean, I missed those 2 years. I mean, I think I could have easily gotten 10 years in. I still got credit for those years, but coming back from that and having to regain your footing, your position back, it's kind of tough to do.
Absolutely. So when you were with the Red Sox, you played with a lot of good players. What kind of conversations did you have with maybe some of these big names about hitting and maybe approach and maybe mental approach?
Really very little, man. I swear. I mean, you'd think there would be a lot more conversation about that stuff, but we all just did different things.
Yeah.
The one guy that I remember talking to me about hitting all the time was John Valentin. And Val was just so cerebral about this. And he's like, you knew when Val was coming toward your locker that you're about to be sitting there for 20 minutes hearing about Val's 4 at-bats. Okay, so my first at-bat, I was thinking, trying to go bridge right here at first pitch, but I was thinking he might throw me a slider, and it's just like, all right, you don't want to be a jerk, so you sit there and listen. But I never really talked much to my teammates about hitting. If I was in a funk, I'd go to Jim Rice, or I'd go look at some video. And I mean, I had some great hitting coaches over the years, Rudy Jaramillo, Clint Hurdle, Jim Rice. And I didn't totally agree on hitting philosophies, but I loved him as a coach.
Yeah.
But really not a lot of just sitting around. I mean, the guys that I played with, I played with so many great players that they all just did it different. One of the examples I use in 2000, I got traded to the Rockies from the Red Sox. And I was playing with Nomar in the American League, who won the batting title in the American League that year. Nomar was incredible. Nomar, I've never seen anybody hit like Nomar. Nomar could hit a first pitch, anything. Knuckleball, slider, get me over curve, cutter, sinker, fastball, like he knew it was coming. And I've never seen anything.
He was
like
always up there hacking first pitch, right?
He wasn't trying to walk, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
And then I go to National League to the Rockies, and Todd Helton hits 372 and wins the batting title in the National League. And Helton was completely opposite. Helton was hunting for a fastball, and he was thinking, left-handed hitter, so he's thinking left center. He hit the ball better the opposite way, better than anybody I'd ever seen. And left-handed hitter, maybe Mo Vaughn, but he was just, you threw him a fastball middle away, up and away, he's crushing that thing over the fence in left field, and just two completely opposite approaches. And that's kind of my argument with what's going on social media.
Right.
Because what I'm seeing is these guys teaching a swing. Now, I don't know if nobody ever talked to me about my swing because I never really failed miserably to where they felt like they had to change it,
right.
And I could see why sometimes people want to change their swings or whatever. But for me, I was a line drive ground ball hitter, and I'd done it my whole life, and I was successful at it, so why change it? Okay. But now I hear them talk about the swing. And you can watch a game a major league game, and you're not going to see two guys hit the same,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and somehow they're all successful or they wouldn't be playing on TV, you know? And so to be teaching kids that you have to do these certain movements, the scap load and snap it and drop it into the slot and all these things that these guys are teaching, to me is, I think it's hilarious because it's so wrong. The opposite of what you and I both know that we learned in our lives playing the game.
It seems like a lot, you know, rather than, we always talked about the KISS method, right? Just keep it simple, stupid. And whether it's step and hit, get your hands to the ball, down through the ball. And so one of the things that I laugh at, and because I just don't understand it. I don't see, if this is my barrel, how I think they call it, you know, getting the barrel on plane behind you, right? And then I think our mindset would have been more, well, the plane of the ball coming in and where my swing gets into the zone maybe starts more around the middle of my body out front, not behind my body. And maybe I'm misunderstanding what they're teaching, but I'm like, I've tried it. I'm like, I'm going to go try some of these methods just at the cage while I go hit with my kid. And I'm like, it feels slow. You know, I mean, maybe I'm doing it wrong. I don't know. But then I'll try to do what I think is right. I'm like, the ball's jumping off that way, you know? So I don't, maybe, have you dabbled with that with your fishing net?
No, I mean, I've imitated it a few times, but I mean, I remember coaching my kids in Little League, and you just see those kids, the first thing they do is get their bat back and start coming around back. You know, it's like, well, you can hit the catcher every time you swing. Well, I mean, we're trying for catcher's interference here.
Right.
You know, and what I was always taught, and why I was a good fastball hitter, I could hit anybody's fastball because I was short to the ball.
Yeah.
And I went from right here to right there in front, you know, and I don't know if you can see that, but from right here straight to the ball. Okay. And I didn't worry about,
you're thinking
hand. Yeah, hands.
Right.
I'm getting my hands, I'm getting this backhand right here, right to the baseball. Okay, as quick as I can. And I'm not trying to swing hard. I'm trying to swing quick. And especially the harder they threw, the quicker I had to be. And one of the keys for me was being as relaxed as possible.
Yeah.
When my hands were loose and relaxed, I was so much quicker than when I gripped the bat tight and tried to muscle up, and it just slows you down. And it was just like, all I got to do is get this barrel to Roger Clemens' 97-mile-an-hour fastball, and I'm hitting it hard somewhere. Doesn't matter. I'm not trying to hit it in the air. I'm just going to try to hit it hard every time I'm at the plate.
Yeah. So you got in your stance, picked up your foot, about a foot, and then just took your hands to the ball.
And put my foot right back down.
Yeah.
I look at I've been goofing around with some of my old videos and stuff because I love putting them on Twitter and messing with these guys, telling me how crappy I was. So here's the last couple of days, I've been doing that a lot. And a lot of the mistakes I see where I make is when I'm going forward.
Yeah.
You know, but I had good hand-eye coordination. So a lot of times when I'm going forward, even though I'm going forward, my hands are still staying back. My hands aren't going with me. Then I got nothing.
Yeah,
so
you still
a
got
lot
that
of times I would
separation.
be fooled. I'd be fooled out front, but my hands were back and I could still put the ball in play, which was I was trying to do, put the ball in play. I wasn't trying to hit home runs.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting, you know, and I mean, kids are going to listen, you know, it's what's available online. And so in a way, I think part of what I'm trying to do as well is maybe have a counterbalance toward that, and let other hitting kids and how they're hitting know that may be a way for you. It might work if you're a really big, strong guy, but if I'm a very average sized player. I was 6'2", about 190. I mean, there's guys that are.
I was that average.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like now there's 6'4", 240 playing center field, you know, and Mike Trout, 6'2", 240, just flying all over the place.
Yeah, runs a 4-flat to first from the right side.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's just letting kids know that it's not the only way, that there are other ways. And I'm seeing it. I think if you go to a batting cage and you see more of a professional that played at a higher level, probably is teaching what you and I know. And I know guys here locally, we have guys like Bill Madlock, Mike Easler. These were big league hitting coaches, right? The hitman.
And great hitters.
Great hitters, plus they know it, right? And
Mhm.
teaching what you and I know. So I think it's just important to let these kids know that, hey, that's probably not going to work. Trying to hit the ball up in the air as a 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old might not be the best approach here. Let's just learn how to hit first.
Right. And I'll tell you one thing that's come out of all this. Two things really. I've connected with so many of my old friends and
Yeah.
teammates through this thing. Um, Real cool story. I'll tell you real quick. There's one other thing I want to tell you about what's come out of this, but I'm good friends with a guy named Colonel Craig Flowers. We met, kind of a long story how we met, but anyway, he's on the Twitter, and I have another friend of mine that I played college ball with. It's on the Twitter deal. And so somebody commented about, I put Flowers and I go fishing a lot. So I posted a video of him catching a big fish.
Right.
Well, my buddy Merck commented about Flowers. Come to find out, they both grew up in the same part of New York, kind of out in the country, and they played against each other. Merck's brother played against Colonel Flowers.
No way.
And so now they've communicated. I gave them each other's numbers, and now, they grew up in the same neighborhood and remember all the guys who were the best athletes in high school and stuff, and just little stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool that's come out of this. But the other thing is the outpour from high school coaches, college coaches, and guys in pro ball, even some front office executives that have reached out to me and said, thank you for doing what you're doing. There's a problem in our game. There's too many guys in this game coaching at the professional level that have never played, that are messing guys up. They don't last very long, but there's guys who played this game who would love to be coaching that aren't coaching right now,
Right.
because they can't get jobs. And some guy who teaches biomechanics or this and that is getting paid $300,000 to coach in the minor leagues, when we know minor league coaches make $50,000.
Yeah.
Guys that play 10 years, and it's like, that's part of the problem. But also these college coaches are saying, listen, we fight this battle all the time. See, our guys, we get them locked in. They go home for Christmas break. They go work with one of these hitting gurus. The next thing you know, their swings change. We got to fix them, or they never recover, never get back to where they are. And in their minds, these guys are ruining kids' swings and ruining their approaches to hitting, because they're all thinking, well, now we all got to hit home runs. And, not everybody's a home run hitter.
Well, let me give you an example, because we have different machines now, because this just kind of helped trigger my mind on what you just said. You and I, when we went to the cage, we went to get our work done, right? We took our swings, whatever our routine was, we felt good about it. Now they all have iPads, they all have machines that measure every single swing that they take, from the batting practice pitchers throwing, they hit a ball, and then they look up at the screen. Oh, sweet, 25-degree launch angle. I just hit it 420 feet. Awesome. That was against a BP pitcher. When you take that same approach into the game, now you're looping up through, the ball goes over your bat and you never make contact. That's why you're hitting 180.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
They're teaching the groove. You've heard this term. They're teaching the groove swing.
Yeah.
Okay. Put that tee on the middle, put it about 3 foot, and then crush every one of those. And if the pitcher throws it there, you got a pretty good chance you're going to hit it hard. But the pitcher's job is to not throw it there. And the higher you get, the less frequently they're going to throw it there. And we both played with guys who had beautiful swings. I'm not going to name guys that didn't make it, or that had just picture perfect swing. You're like, man, I wish I had a swing like that. But then when they got to the highest level, they couldn't hit. And you see guys with goofy looking swings. Look at Hunter Pence.
Right.
And he just finds a way to get the barrel of the ball, and that's all you have to do. Get the barrel of the ball consistently, hit the ball more consistently hard than anybody else.
Yeah.
And they're going to fall in.
You said the groove swing, that's literally a checkbox, and we're scouting players in the hitting category. There's a groove checkbox. And I'm checking that more recently than I have in the past, and I'm noticing, for me, and I had a crappy big league career, but I did a lot of good positive things in the minor leagues, had some swing changes, things like that. But I wanted to always make sure I could handle the high fastball. Right. And so If I'm swinging up at all to the baseball, I would never be able to handle a high fastball. So I wanted to work top down because I felt the easier it was to handle the high fastball. I can easily handle the mid-high fastball to the lower fastball, knee length. But then we saw pitchers, right? Now pitchers started to see, well, let's throw the ball up because everyone is swinging up. And then we started to see a dip in hitting. So let me ask you this. As an advisor, I'm assuming you have quite a few position players. Do they come to you and ask you, hey, Jeff, you hit this way. I'm being taught this way. Are there any issues there?
Not really that much. I mean, if somebody's teaching something off the wall, then, you know, they'll call me and stuff. I usually don't interfere with the amateur players.
Okay.
I mean, I really won't. I mean, I'm generally not going to go tell a guy how to do stuff unless they ask me.
Right.
You know, I mean, until they failed, I mean, they wouldn't be a prospect if they couldn't do it at this point, you know. And so usually the guys I'm going after are guys that are already going to be prospects or draft guys. So I don't really have to do a lot of coaching. In the past, I've talked to guys, and we used to represent, I was at a company that represented Ian Kinsler, and I've talked to Ian at times about things because I always felt like when he was using the whole field, he was more of a complete hitter rather than trying to turn on everything. And but for, you know, Ian's not a big guy. He had a tremendous power and tremendous career, but I always felt like he would stay on the ball longer if he would focus at times on staying the other way.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I don't really go out of my way to tell guys unless they ask.
Sure.
And I don't have all the answers. I mean, you know, I just know what worked for me, and my approach was pretty simple. Look for a fastball. I look for a fastball 99.9% of the time, and it just depends what the count was. I would change my approach with 2 strikes to still looking at fastball, but now I'm going to cover middle away, and if you throw me your best fastball, I'm going to hit it to right center, or at least think I am, and then that way I can stay back long enough to hit the off-speed pitches.
Yeah, no doubt. And that's what we've all been taught, right? And it's when you kind of start to learn, when you teaching that to, say, young high school age kids, they still, their mindset is, I'm looking middle in. I'm going to try to pull it down the line because I want to hit a homer to left field, obviously if you're a right-handed hitter. And it can work a little bit. Some of those big hitters get up on the plate and they can turn and burn, but man, as soon as they get to college and they're not really that complete hitter yet, they start to see a lot of failure at that next level. And then they're kind of shrugging their shoulders. They're not sure, man, do I suck this bad or do I just not know how to hit?
Right. I was lucky because I always hit the ball the other way. Even in high school and college, I rarely pulled the ball. And so when I got to pro ball, it was really weird, man. It was like now I could turn on pitches inside that before I was inside outing to the opposite field. And I don't know. I mean, and the funny thing is nobody ever told me to start doing that. You just kind of react. I mean, that's the thing about hitting is it's a reaction.
Yep.
Okay. And you can say whatever you want about all these keys about loading this and doing this. When the ball is on the way, you are reacting. You don't have time to think about all this other garbage. Okay. You can work on all that stuff in practice and BP, but when you step in that batter's box, you can't have anything else on your mind other than seeing the ball and hitting it hard.
No doubt.
Yeah, at least that's what worked for me. I mean,
why make it any harder than that, right?
Right. And now we're just, we're overcomplicating things, I think. And guys who played pro ball not many of them have crossed over to the side where they believe in all this new stuff. Some of them have, but for the most part, the guys who played this game at a high level are teaching what they learned and what worked for them. Maybe a few adjustments here and there, but not overall revamping to where you're going to completely, drop your elbow in the slot and snap it. That's the thing.
Snap it.
I mean, that snap it thing when he does like this, I'm like, how can you hit him?
Yeah.
You have no power.
So your front knob's going to go straight up that way, right?
Yeah. I mean, can you believe some of these things they have? A fishing net. They've got a spatula. They've got the PVC pipe.
So let's talk about that. So back to your videos. So are you basing some of that your material? Like I've seen a guy with literally a fishing net. I've seen
Yep.
the PVC pipes kind of, kind of working your posture. There's some things that in a way make sense, but like, does that really happen in the swing? So tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, basically all the videos I've made pretty much have been things I've seen, except for the plunger. I don't know if you saw the plunger.
I
I did.
I haven't seen the plunger. The one I just laughed at, like cackled out loud, was on the back. You're laying
Oh
straight
yeah,
back.
yeah. That one. There was a few takes on that one. I was getting too much blood to my head on that one, but I was like, all right, I can't teach myself. I just can't make myself swing up. So maybe if I'm upside down, me swinging down will be swinging up. And
Right, right.
yeah, but most of the videos are things that I've actually seen
Okay.
being taught, and I mean, I can see where using the PVC a little bit for the, just getting the feeling of turning your body. I could kind of see that one, how that could help.
Right.
But the snap it and this abbreviated swing where they get here and stop. I mean, I don't know how. I don't understand what that is teaching.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
what I've kind of seen, I haven't like fully researched it, but in just kind of looking at it a little bit, obviously this hitting guru here, this guy here. I think too, I've even seen like there's one guy that maybe teaches a certain philosophy, and then he'll sell a whole certification, right, to
yeah.
teach these movements, but it's like he has a patent on it or something.
For $999, you can get certified. You know what I mean? It's comedy. I mean, you can be driveline certified, Rapsodo certified. I love Marvin Freeman. He's always like, "Hey man, I played 10 years in the big leagues. I've been giving lessons for 20 years. How do I get certified?" You
Right,
know?
right.
I mean,
Well, one of the things I've noticed, we've seen Christian Yelich just start to
mhm.
go off. And I think I'm good friends with a scout here that works for the Brewers. And we talked about, he really, once he got to the Brewers, he didn't make a whole lot of adjustments from the Marlins to the Brewers, rather than he actually, from my understanding, he was conscious of, he wanted to be a little bit flatter to the baseball, right? Which
Mhm.
would interpret us that it's going to go this way, not completely down and up and through. So the result of that has been, dude, you're an MVP, right?
Almost twice. If he
Yeah,
hadn't got hurt.
yeah, yeah. No, it's interesting, and I've seen videos with Mike Trout. He did one with A-Rod, and Mike Trout talks about, if you were to watch him on video, it doesn't look like he's swinging down to the ball, but when you take your stride, right, and your body starts to open, and you start to swing down, if that's your thought, your hands are just going to the ball. It can give off that illusion of, no, oh no, he's dropping his back shoulder, trying to get on plane up through the baseball, when all he's doing, he's just trying to hit down through the baseball, and he's just turning and going through it. So
Mhm.
they're trying to teach off of what they're seeing, and you and I would say, well, I'm my approach, my thought is to go down through the baseball. That's what I feel. But when you do it the opposite way and you teach off of, well, look at the video, or look at the angle of this video, that's not what his body's doing. It's just interesting.
Right. Well, I have two things to say about that. One of them is um, what they say is, I'm sure you've heard this phrase, it's feel versus real.
Okay. Yep.
So you feel like you're swinging down, but if you look the video and you slow it down enough, you're actually not. So let's teach everybody what you're actually doing and try and hit that way. So just think, if you thought you were swinging up, how much you would really be swinging up.
Right. Right.
You
So
know,
I think that's
I
the
mean,
point. Like, are you trying to swing up to the ball? Right. And that's when I went into the cage and swung up the ball, it was awful. Right.
mhm.
It was loopy up, ball straight up in the net. I don't know. It's just interesting. Like, I'm glad, like, MLB Network and different people like Jim Tomei, Chipper
Yep.
Jones did a video, talked about really old school. Like, yeah, I just get in the cage, I go down through the ball, I want to backspin it to the back of the cage. I don't want the ball up in the air. But when you go watch, and Freddie Freeman said the same thing, but when you watch Freddie, it looks like he's swinging straight up, but he's not.
Right. No. No, and that's
Right?
the absurdity of this argument is
Yeah.
because Chipper Jones has been in on some of these arguments.
Right.
Kevin Youkilis, you know, I
Yeah.
mean, a lot. I'm not going to put all the guys out there, but a lot of guys who had great careers are completely saying the opposite of what these guys who didn't play are saying. But
Yeah.
yet we're the idiots. We don't know what we're talking about. And you know, as a hitter, I know the balls. I didn't hit a lot of home runs in my career, like 16. I get reminded of that like every day that I'm a Judy. But I can tell you some of the balls that I hit the best in my career were balls down and in that all I did was drop the head.
Mhm.
You just react. Okay. I'm not looking down and in. I'm looking middle away, and the guy comes in and he doesn't have enough velocity, and I drop the head and hit a homer or smoke one down the line. Okay. That, to me, that's what they're teaching. Okay. As long as these pitchers are throwing the ball down and in on you and you're dropping down there, you got a good shot at hitting the ball hard. But the problem is, you know, at the big league level, they get you out away. Everybody's pitching away. They come in sometimes, you know, for effect, but they're getting you out away. So why are we teaching everybody to swing on the pitch that's down and in that you just react on and try and mold our swings around this one particular swing path? It
Yeah. I
doesn't
mean,
make sense to me.
yeah. I mean, and even I think big league pitchers would probably admit too, like it's really hard to throw 3 or 4 fastballs on the inner half, you know, in a row. You know,
Plus, you know, I mean, I know the ball's a little livelier these days than when we played, but pitchers don't want to go inside unless they got, you know, some serious gas,
right.
because those are the pitches that ends up in the seats.
Mhm.
Those pitches away, the guys might get base hits, but generally they're not hitting them out of the ballpark. You miss in, you better freaking miss way in, or dudes, you know, who have power are going to do some damage on you. So pitchers, all the way back from when I played, I mean, the guys who I least like to face are the guys who would pitch inside.
Yeah, no doubt.
You know,
No doubt.
because that's how they got me out consistently. That's why in a lot of the videos that I've posted, I'm way off the plate. I didn't even realize I was that far off the plate a lot of times, but it's because I knew I could cover away. But the pitch that gave me trouble was fastball in on the hands or fastball two-seamer running in on me. And I broke a lot of bats on pitches like that. So I figured I'd take that pitch away from these guys, make that inside corner the middle of the plate, and the outside corner I could cover to the other way, you know. And so, I mean, that's just kind of the thing that I didn't realize I was standing, looked like 3 feet off the friggin' plate. Some of these videos of it.
When you stood off the plate, were you a diver? Did you dive in a little bit?
A little bit, but I moved around the box. Okay. Normally I would get, if I'm leading off a game, I'm going the very back of the box as far as I can get back. I figured the farther I get back, the more time I have to see the ball. Okay. Now, if a guy had a nasty curveball that would break, you know, kind of out front, I would move up in the box. If the guy was a Scott Erickson type guy who threw a bowling ball sinker, who almost broke 3 of my bats in one game, by the way, I would move off the plate. Okay. If I'm in a hit and run situation or a situation where I need to hit a ground ball to the right side, I'm moving off the plate because I know they're going to try and pitch me in. Well, I got to take that away from them. So I know I can hit that pitch to the right side as long as it's not too far in. If it's too far in, I know it's a ball because I'm off the dish.
Right. Okay.
So
that's awesome, man.
I bet a quarter of my hits were through the 4-hole.
Yeah. So would you get shifted if you were playing in today? Would they have quite a shift on you?
I think they would. I mean, some teams shifted me in the outfield, not so much in the infield. If there was a real hard thrower on the mound, I remember hitting a line drive in old Comiskey Park off Roberto Hernandez, who threw mid to upper 90s, and I smoked the line drive. Seemed like it was right over Frank Thomas's head, and there's Davey Martinez standing about 3 foot from. I thought I had a triple when I hit it, and he's just standing there, can of corn, you know. But I know the type of hitter I was that if they shifted on me, I would be able to take advantage of it because hit and run was my specialty. Let me tell you this story real quick. Hit and run was my specialty. With Kevin Kennedy was a manager in Boston, I approached Kevin and I said, how do you feel about letting me put on my own hit and run? And he probably never had a player ask him that before. I was like, here's the deal. I said, runner on first and second. Every single time I come up in that situation, I want to hit and run because I'm trying to hit a ground ball. If the infielders are moving, I have a better chance of getting that ball through the infield.
Right.
So he allowed me with Darren Bragg and a few other guys, Darren Lewis. I would have a sign if I'm coming up and Darren Bragg's on first base, I go to home plate and I want to hit and run. Doesn't have to be on the first pitch or whatever, but I would grab my cup and look at Braggy, and Braggy kind of look away and grab his helmet. We'd both know that the hit and run was on. And I bet I did it one year 30 times.
Wow.
In a season. Okay, it didn't work every time, but it worked at a very high percentage. And Kevin let me do that until one time I accidentally put it on, and Braggy thought I accidentally put it on, and I didn't. And we screwed it up, and he said, "All right, that's it." But
Grabbing
what
your
I
cup
would do,
too much.
yeah, apparently, you know how uncomfortable those things are. But what I would do is before I came up, I would watch the middle infielders, okay, and I would see if there's a run on first, who was covering the base, who was shifting over. If I had a hitter who's a second baseman shaded toward first and the shortstop more up the middle, that way they might cross it up on a hit and run type situation. So going to home plate, I knew if I put a hit and run on, at least I had a high percentage of knowing which one of the middle infielders is going to cover the base. And if I thought it was a shortstop, I would try to roll one over to the left side.
Right.
If I thought it was a second baseman, I try to hit it closer to first base.
So you had crazy bat control.
Yes. I mean, and the thing for me was getting on top of the ball, the barrel on top of the ball. I had a hit and run one time, neck high pitch that I hit like this and hit a 30 hopper that barely made the outfield grass, and we got first and third. So I was trying, I'm sure you were taught the same way. A pitch up here, you don't hit like this. You hit your barrel on top of it, barrel on top of your hands, and just try to chop down on it. Yeah. And I did that many, many times.
Yeah, I mean, you get the high fastball. If we're trying to get on plane with the pitch, high fastball, that barrel's got to still be up here, right, to get to it. You can't drop it and go up underneath it. That's the opposite of what you're trying to accomplish.
And that's one of the new phrases, get on plane, which I never heard in my career.
No. Well, and I think get on plane makes sense but you can't start by swinging up at it, right? If you get a high fastball, you'll never hit that. So I think that's maybe where there's some differences, right? Where I can get on plane with that high fastball with staying on top. In the middle, I can still stay on top and I think get on plane. And then maybe down low, that might be a little bit different. But like you were saying, on the inside corner, all I did was drop the head. And I just hit a home run without even trying. So it's right. It's interesting. Yeah.
Without even thinking about it. And that's the thing. You don't think about it. You just react. And sometimes they say, how'd you do that? And you're like, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I just reacted. I mean, what's the amount of time you have? Like 4/10 of a second from the time the guy lets the ball go to when you have to decide or whatever. No, I mean, you can't be thinking about loading everything. And, the one thing I heard guys mention before was if a guy has a good sinker, to try and hit below the ball.
Yeah.
And some guys could do that, and I could see that. But I never was able to do that. I never tried. I mean, I was just – and that's probably why those guys gave me more trouble than anybody else. I hit a lot of ground balls off sinker guys, but as long as I hit it hard, I had a chance of being a hit anyway.
Yeah, and I think that's too where from a mindset in your approach, maybe that's when you do make an adjustment and think, oh, okay, this guy is known for his sinker. Maybe I do need to get I hate launching. I hate that term, but not as much down, but maybe more. I'm going to swing a little bit more up at this pitch than I would normally. And that's cool. That's how you would make an adjustment. I think that makes perfect sense.
Right. And you know who gets to do that, right? The guys who are secure in their jobs. Right?
Yeah.
Me, I wasn't secure in my job till I signed a 3-year contract.
Yeah.
I was never secure. And so, the guys who are the stars and the guys who are, no doubt going to have 10 years in the big leagues. They can experiment with stuff. When you're fighting for your life every day and you're only as good as your last game, you can't be tinkering around with a whole lot of crap. You got to do what you know and go with what helps you get there. And not much time for playing around. Like, perfect example, spring training. Okay, the guys who are trying to make the team, they ain't working on crap. They ain't working on their new sinker or their new changeup. They're out trying to get out so they can make the team. But the guys, that have been there for 8 years and they're number 2 starter, they're working on stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care about results. So there's 2 different groups, and some of us are in the middle of both of those. So it's, I didn't spend a whole lot of time tinkering and practicing with stuff to see if it worked. I just had to go with what I knew worked for me.
Yeah, you better have figured it out before you got to spring training, right? In the off season. Like, if I'm gonna mess with something, it better be now, not right in spring. Well, this has been awesome, dude.
Yeah. Once you get into game time, you know how it is.
Yeah.
You're not thinking about nothing but hitting the ball hard and doing your job.
No doubt. Well, I have taken up a lot of your time. This has been absolutely awesome. I love hitting. I love hearing from all different kinds of players, different eras. I think you're about 10 years older than I was. So, but I remember watching you and just hitting rockets all over the place. And I think this is so cool in regards to what you've done with Shigon hitting. And so I think it's you can make that a great brand. And you said the website, do you know is that going to be Shigon, like hitting.com, or what are you going to do with anything?
That's exactly what it is. And I think it will hopefully be up tomorrow. I don't know if you can see this.
You're going to sell some, are we going to get some merch? Is that what we're doing?
Shigon hitting t-shirts should go on the market hopefully tomorrow.
Beautiful.
Shirt right here. I have a gray and a black. That's our logo.
Perfect. Well, we'll help get that out for you.
Awesome, man. I appreciate it.
Well, do you have any? You got the draft coming up. You got any guys in the draft that could possibly go?
Yeah, I have. Nah, probably. I mean, when they narrowed it down to 5 rounds, it's 150 players. So
a little tough.
There's over 400 agencies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And 24 first rounders are with the Boris Corporation. So
right.
Kind of slim pickings, but I got a few guys. I don't know. This has just been a messed up deal all around with the virus and these poor guys. My youngest son lost his senior season baseball, and some of my guys lost their seasons in college, and luckily they'll have eligibility come back next year. Hopefully we get back to normal, and so we'll see what happens.
Good. Well, Jeff, I appreciate your time, man. Best of luck to you in the draft, and like I said, we'll help get this word out. And hopefully we just continue to get the creativity is, I'm sure, going to get crazier and crazier as we go through this. But I appreciate you making us laugh, man. This has been great.
You're welcome, man. I appreciate you having me on, Chad. I enjoyed it.
Okay, best luck to you. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks.
Okay, buddy. All right.
Okay.